Hi, this is Lisa Piper with Miracle of Deliverance, and this is Helping Marriages Class 24. Today, I want to talk to you about how to hear God with your client. Now, your job is to work yourself out of a job. Often, the couple, they're full of bitterness, fear, anxiety, rage, all kinds of a myriad of emotions, and sometimes it's hard for them to hear each other properly and hard to hear from God. So each time you meet with them, there are exercises that you can do to assure that they are hearing from God. You don't want them depending on you always to hear from God. They need a connection with Him. Now, when God speaks, it can be seldom is it an audible voice, but I'm not going to put that past him. But sometimes he speaks in pictures, he speaks giving the scripture, he can speak just a knowing or through a memory, however he wants to do it. I'm going to share with you some ideas of things that you can recommend that they ask God. You can process this with them. So if it's off centered or not right, you can recommend that we go again and ask the Lord properly. If you have a person who doesn't see themselves properly, one of the questions they can ask is, God, would you show me how you see me? That can be very healing. Seldom is it what we think. So as soon as they hear from God themselves, they need to speak that out their mouths and maybe even write that down so they can use that later on to speak the truth over themselves. Sometimes women see themselves as unworthy or unloved or unwanted. And when God shows them how He sees them, then it can be a lot of healing. They can, a spouse can say, okay, God, show me how you see my spouse. This is a great tool when they have a difficult time forgiving their spouse, because if they have God's viewpoint, oftentimes compassion will come in and they will have such compassion over their spouse that they can't offer their forgiveness. You can have them ask God what they need to forgive. See, a lot of times, as you may well know this, is that we have hidden unforgiveness. It's not just in the top of our head, but things that we have harbored, pushed down deep, bitterness that we've pushed down there, and only God knows it. So you can say, okay, God, would you show me any person or anything I need to forgive? Just bring that to my mind and I will choose to forgive. It is amazing how God will just bring stuff up that's hidden down in there and clean them out and get them healed. Another question to ask God is, God, how do you want me to pray for my spouse? And He can give some creative ideas for that. If you've I recommend that all married couples know what their love language is. And there's a book out on the 5 love languages and videos, I believe. But if they know that love language, they can then ask the Lord, say, God, show me how to show my spouse love. Sometimes if you have opposite love languages, it's hard to grasp how a person can receive love. Like mine is not touch and mine is not time. And it baffles me to think that somebody rubbing me, well, I don't want to be rubbed, uh, that they would consider that love. For me, acts of service or affirmation. And my husband's not an acts of service. He doesn't care if I ever did anything for him, if I would just sit down and be with him, hold his hand, and that kind of thing. So, because his love language is foreign, I've had to say, God, show me what I can do today that my husband will translate into love. For those that have a spouse that enjoy gifts, and maybe there's no money, just say, okay, God, show me what I can do to give today. Show me what I can do to serve today. And as He begins to speak to them, it will open up the reservoir to where they will hear God more frequently, and their communication and connection with Him will strengthen. You want your clients' uh, communication and relationship to strengthen between God and them. Oftentimes, people like being a mediator or liaison for God, and that's, I mean, at the beginning, sometimes you need to hear from God and initiate, but you want to work yourself out of a job. You don't want them connected to you. You want them connected to God. So you're just going to keep pointing to God and let them connect. There should be no control. There should be no thought that I have to have this mentor or person in order to hear from God. That's not so. And then the last idea I have is they need to, on a regular basis, be able to ask God, God, what's the root of my behaviors? So if a person acts out angry or won't let something go or finds they have just a bad attitude, that they can say, okay, God, where's this coming from? And listen and hear God give the treasure, give the mystery of what it is. Because oftentimes I would never guess most of the issues that come here in my office. I would not guess where they came from, but I bank on the Lord. Um, Sometimes it comes from trauma. Sometimes bad behaviors come from wrong beliefs. Sometimes they come from um, bad habits. Sometimes they come demonic. And so they need to be able to hear from God to be able to change their own behaviors. Eventually, at first they may come with you and say, I really was full of stress today, or today I accused my spouse of things that I didn't have evidence for. Why am I doing that? At first, they may come to you. As you process this out loud and seek the Lord, they will be able to do that on their own. So help your person you're working with to be able to hear from God, work yourself out of a job, and you will see them getting whole and staying whole. If you want to see more on the marriage videos, you can go to miracleofdeliverance.com/helping marriages. Hope you enjoyed this video, and I'll see you next for number 25.